Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a quick first impressions for you. I've got the knife here, quick description that you can always pause and read, but this is the RealSteel Lynx S35VN Ivan B. Bregnetz, and probably pronouncing that wrong, and you can see the 2020 and item number 008 there, so kind of cool. Ships wrapped in microfiber in this sort of foam package. Let's get that out of the way and bring in what everyone wants to see and cares about, and that is the knife. So this is the RealSteel Lynx. I've been interested in this for some time, and I've been following Ivan Bregnetz for some time. I think after he did a Kaiser not that long ago. He's done a couple of designs, I believe, for Kaiser that I was interested in. I believe he's also done some designs in addition to RealSteel. He's also done a couple of Bestech designs, but I could be wrong about that one. Anyway, let me give you a quick rundown of the features on this knife, and then go ahead and give you size, weight, and my initial impression. So features here, why I was interested. So we've got S35VN drop point blade with a satin finish, kind of a modified drop point, you might call this. Fuller here on the flat and some nice jimping here. Fairly thick blade stock you can see on there. Moving around the knife as we get down here to the pivot, you can see we've got a slot pivot, and that's sort of an Ivan Bregnetz, what would you say, feature, I guess. Dual row ceramic bearings on this with a flipper tab. Multiple deployment options here. So you've got the flipper tab, you've got the fuller that works really well if you want to roll the knife open, and guess what, it can also very nicely spidey flick. So lots of opening options. I really like the way they've done this this fuller here. It just has a nice feel to it that allows your thumb or finger to really catch that edge and flick it out easily. So kind of love that. I mentioned the dual row ceramic bearings. I kind of love that as well. Very accessible, very comfortable titanium lock bar. So this is all titanium internally, titanium, I guess, liners essentially, very, very thick liners. Thin carbon fiber scales here that are really, really nicely done. Check out that carbon fiber. Really, really great work by RealSteel. This is, of course, 3D contoured. I love the way that the titanium sort of matches up. Full backspacer here with that little line milled in as sort of an added detail. Glass breaker on the end of this knife, which I'm not always a huge fan of, but in this case, it doesn't seem to do any damage to the design. All right, overall, really, really attractive knife. And I have to say, you know, what RealSteel, sorry about that misspeak there, but what RealSteel is able to do, then deep carry, just spring clip. All right, that's the only part that doesn't seem to, you know, be over the top and just exceptionally well done. I mean, it's an effective, attractive clip, but not anything special or not a fancy material or anything like that. Okay. I have to say that my initial response or my initial impression of the action is, wow, this is one of the nicest, if not the nicest, of the RealSteels. And this really shows RealSteel, when they pull out all the stops and try to do something really, really spectacular, they can do a great job. Now, RealSteel and Reich knives are made by Senran. You don't see a lot of this kind of stuff from Senran, so I'm wondering if perhaps the higher end models, they source a different manufacturer. Anyway, could be wrong, could be right. This is much higher end and much tighter finishing than what I'm used to seeing from RealSteel. I mean, they usually do a great job, but this is really, really great. Okay, size and weight on this guy, 8¼ inches overall. That's of course subtracting. If you measure right to the end of the glass breaker, you'll get closer to like 8 3/8, but I kind of just measure from the handle. So 8 8¼ overall, 3½ inches on the blade, 4¾ inch handle, 5 3/8 inch grip area. So you can see how this kind of wraps around and this kind of wraps in. So it doesn't give you tons of room for a knife of this size, but it's more than more than sufficient. Feels really, really good on first sort of, on my initial just testing. All right, we're right here on camera. And weighs in at 3.7 ounces. For a knife this size, it actually feels quite light when you pick it up, especially given that fairly substantial blade stock. Now, what is my initial impression? What are my thoughts on this knife? Pretty stinking impressive. This, I think I'll have to add to my list. And there are a few knives that I have on this list of, knives that I say to people, if you want to just feel what high end is like, if you want to experience what people are talking about when they talk about just an absolutely superb action, comparable to a Shirogorov or an Arius or something like that, this is a good option for you. This, you're not going to spend the kind of money you'd have to spend to get into a Shiro or some other, a Spectre or something like that. You don't have to spend anywhere close to that kind of money, but you can experience very close to what those actions are able to achieve. And this is really, really spectacular. Before this, I would have said the Megalodon on roller bearings was sort of that knife, a knife that cost a couple $100 but has, $1,000 action. And I would have to say that about this knife as well, at least on initial impression. Let me carry it, let me use it for a while and see if that holds up over time. But my initial reaction is this is a very impressive knife and allows you to really get something exceptional for not a cheap price, but for an accessible price. Let's say that. Most people, I think, could, put aside a bit of money and be able to get to the point where they could buy something like this, where maybe a Shirogorov or an Arius or something is not so realistic for you. So there you go, guys. That's my initial thoughts on the RealSteel Lynx designed by Ivan Brignitz. Wow. Really, really impressive is all I can say about this. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check the channel sponsors. This came from White Mountain Knives, and I think there's a couple more over there, so you can save yourself 10%. We'll talk to you soon.